back to the Phil Rosenberg Show. I am, of course, Phil Rosenberg, and I'm here with a very special guest. His name is Aaron Blake. Aaron is not just an opera singer, but he's a tenor, which is a very special, he gives him a very special range. For those of you that are not familiar, you've probably heard of the three tenors. You've heard of, is that right? The three tenors, Aaron?
The three tenors, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and one of whom is dead, as a matter of fact.
Yes, one of whom is dead, Luciano Pavarotti. He's deceased.
So now it's like two tenors and some bones.
Two tenors and some bones. One's a baritone now, in fact, as well. That's Placido Domingo.
So it's a tenor, a baritone, and some bones.
Exactly, there you go.
Aaron Blake is a native of Palo Verde, California. That means green tree. A 2006 graduate of Juilliard School of Music, and he also has a master's in music with a specialization in operatic performance from the Shepherd School of Music at Rush University. It's a very prestigious place to learn music. He has been, and is now, in fact, a tenor for the Metropolitan Opera since the 2014-15 season, most recently as the High Priest of Amon in Philip Glass's, I'm going to pronounce this correctly, I hope, Akhnaten?
Correct, that's Akhnaten. He was a pharaoh, an Egyptian pharaoh.
Aaron, thank you so much for joining me today.
It's my pleasure, Phil. Thanks for having me.
How are you feeling in the midst of all this hullabaloo, shall we call it?
You know, I feel like I'm actually doing pretty well. I smile a lot still, which is a good thing.
That's a good thing, yeah.
It has definitely been a change of life. You know, when right before this all started, I was singing with the Israeli opera. I was doing the Count Almaviva and the Barber of Seville. And we started rehearsals in mid-January, and the performances started in late February and went into the middle of March.
Yeah.
And we started hearing little bits and pieces about the coronavirus going, oh, it's another one of these SARS type moments and it won't affect us. And then as it started growing, and we actually had a couple of Italians and other people that were living in Italy in our cast there, and they were sending pictures from home of the supermarkets being raided and all the pasta, all the barilla off the shelves.
They did with pasta what we did with toilet paper.
Toilet paper. Exactly.
That's so weird. This is a really good time, by the way. Let's make a funny face, okay? On the count of three. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Hello.
Hello.
Nice to see you.
This is funny. I'm on the Phil Rosenberg show.
No, thank you for coming. It's so nice of you.
My pleasure.
Oh, all right. Okay, welcome back.
Out of my systems, Phil.
Yeah, I needed to do that. Thanks for doing that for me. This is a little more serious, I guess. I want to ask you about what is happening in the future of. So we saw like everything came to an end. You're saying in Israel, the opera. That's
well,
it.
So yeah, we started hearing these things, and then our performances started happening, and it became more serious. La Scala actually closed while we were in Israel. Yeah. And then it evolved into, there were two casts, and the more, wily of the two casts, they ended up incorporating the face mask into their performances.
Oh, how clever.
We finished performing on March 8th. I was home in New York on March 9th, and I ended up choosing to fly to California to be with my parents on the 13th. So it was an abrupt halt, and then by that Monday, the entire country was basically on lockdown.
Mm-hmm. Woo!
And then, the whole of my colleagues we started receiving all of these cancellations, this rolling cancellation, which is still happening.
Yeah, I have the same exact experience. Was doing the radio show, was working on a TV pilot, was doing different projects, teaching chess. All of these things are now, they're up in the air. Some of them seem obviously not going to move forward. Others, other projects.
That's everybody's favorite word at the moment, right? Furloughed.
I mean, I guess it's not dead. It's still breathing, but maybe just barely. So everything comes to a screeching halt. And what next? What do you think? What does the future hold for you? And then let's talk about the wider opera scene. Are you just sort of just being a hermit right now and waiting until everything blossoms again, or what's the plan?
So as I said, I'm in California. I chose to get out of New York. For one of the reasons was because I knew that I didn't have the virus, and I wanted to be in a place where I live in a very large building in New York City.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be in a single family house. Both of my parents are somewhat older, I would say, particularly my father. And he's not well. He has Alzheimer's. And so I knew that I could be really helpful here in helping to kind of, take some of that burden off of my mom's shoulders, who works and takes care of him as well. So I've been helping out with that. And somewhat being a hermit, I wouldn't necessarily call it that, but I have been doing a lot of introspection and also a lot of practice. It's given me a ton of free time, obviously, to work on my voice and to think about what I might want to do going forward as far as certain types of engagements I might want to seek out. Also, I do sing cabaret as well, which is kind of...
I heard about that, actually. We were going to get there.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of cabaret.
I love cabaret. I developed a new virtual musical experience called Toasty Tuesdays. So I've been doing that, and I've also been maintaining my private studio of voice as well, which has been a passion of mine for, about 7 years now. And I have a studio of between 10 and 12 students at any given time. And that's been something that I've done and taken with me on the road, because I teach mainly through Zoom or FaceTime. And I've been able to travel with that business. And then now it's become something that I'm so grateful that I have, because it's been something that's helping to support me during this time when we're all out of the theaters.
All right. So are you imagining what so restaurants are not open yet by you, or are they?
Restaurants are open, actually. I saw some people eating out on a patio just the other day.
Where have you been have you had your first restaurant meal, like at a restaurant yet?
I have not had my first restaurant meal at a restaurant yet.
Where will it be when you go? Where will it be?
That's a good question. I feel like, not that I don't want to, I'm not a big restaurant person when I'm out in California anyway, because we like to cook a lot as a family. And so I feel as though what I'm going to end up doing is probably waiting on that until it's really worthwhile, or maybe when I'm traveling somewhere, I'll go out and eat when I'm on an engagement again. But for the moment, I don't feel compelled to go back to the restaurants.
All right, so the basics. Who's your favorite living opera singer besides yourself?
Wow, besides myself. That's a really good question. My favorite living opera singer besides myself, I'd probably have to go with Renee Fleming.
And who's your favorite dead opera singer?
I'm going to go with Pavarotti.
Or
Maria Callas. It may be a tie between Pavarotti and Callas.
Okay. What is your favorite opera to sing, or do you have one that's really the one that you just know it's the one, or do you have many?
My answer to that question is my favorite opera to sing is whichever opera I'm performing.
I knew you were going to say that. Yeah.
Because I don't know if that's a pat answer that a lot of people give, but to me, it really makes the most sense, because when I'm performing a role, I've invested my entire self in that role, and I really pride myself in taking it to that level, so that it's not like I'm hating performing this role, or gosh, this role is so silly. I hear some colleagues talk about that. Oh, I'd never want to perform that role, or oh, this role is so annoying. But I feel like when you look at the way that I approach it as an artist, is I always say, I do my best to find the real qualities about the character, and then go deeper and figure out how I can flesh those out to make him interesting.
Thinking back, have you had a favorite role?
One of the most impressive experiences that I've ever had as an artist was to be able to create the role of Timothy Laughlin in Fellow Travelers, which is an opera by Gregory Spears with a libretto by Greg Pierce that was directed by Kevin Newberry. And that was premiered in Cincinnati. It was a world premiere, the first world premiere that I was a part of back in 2016. And the reason why that opera was important to me and why it was such an amazing experience is because it had an incredible support system behind it, and it was about a very special topic, which was similar, I suppose, to what we're dealing with now with, this new movement that has been once again spurred on by the death of George Floyd, which was in the 1950s, in the McCarthy era in Washington, D.C., the persecution of different people, gay people, lesbian people, and communists, and all of these people that were earmarked as being people that could jeopardize the national security of our government, for lack of
It's really the status quo. That I know the time you're talking about, the whole McCarthy era, was, I think, about the people in power recognized that the enemy of capitalism, the natural enemy of capitalism, even by the claims of communism, the communism itself says that it is it comes after capitalism fails. And so it is the natural enemy of it. And I think at that time, anyone who was against the status quo, who wanted things to change, be different, ended up being, do I want to use the phrase enemy of the state?
In a way, it really was. And I mean, in particular, my character, Tim, he was a young Fordham graduate who goes to DC, meets this guy on a park bench, has his first homosexual relationship with him, and ends up having his entire life destroyed by the fact that this man has to hide in order to keep his job, and ends up giving his name to the hearings, all the things that he worked for as, a speechwriter for a senator, and all the other initiatives that he worked at as building a career and a life in Washington, D.C., as this hopeful young man, were completely taken away from him in an instant with this decision that this guy made to save his own hide and give up my life, basically. They said that it was like the La Boheme of the 21st century. It's a really profound love story. The music is gorgeous, and it was definitely a life-changing moment on stage for me, where I grew tremendously as an artist, and it has informed how I perform, and have performed every role ever since then.
How has it informed your future performances?
Well, I feel like until that moment, I was really still searching for what it meant to be real on stage, and what it meant to feel comfortable being a real character on stage. And that opera, because of how important the singing a full-scale opera in English with really, really modern day idioms, informs the way that you use your voice and the way that you express the text. And before that moment, I'd never experienced anything like that. To figure out how to best support that wonderful libretto and that beautiful music informed the way that I would approach La Traviata, would inform the way that I approach Barber of Seville, and to go beyond the boundaries that people may feel that music of Mozart and Rossini and Verdi and all of those kinds of styles of opera have on them. They can still be very immediate and real.
Let me first ask this. So for some time, it's been maybe even 100 years or more since the opera has really been like, the main place you go for your entertainment, right? And also maybe other countries as well. Maybe it was never quite mainstream here. And I mean, I don't know. I mean,
I would say that it was mainstream for a certain crew, but definitely not for the public at large.
But that, like, unlike Italy, for example, where the public at large would have worse seats, but everyone would go to the opera as their
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's
really, everybody, in a certain sense, Phil, everyone's always gone to the opera here too, but it's not a part of our innate culture. Whereas in Germany, every city has an opera house or 2 or 3, and they're sold out every night. And they will continue to be, because they have wonderful government support for the arts, and they're able to keep the ticket prices at a realm that make it manageable for people to afford to go.
Are you thinking about ways, what can you do during the pandemic? Is it possible? Is it totally irrational to think that it's possible to produce an opera digitally?
It's actually not impossible to think of that. In fact, a Zoom opera has already taken place. I started Tulsi Tuesdays, which is a virtual musical event. It's by no means a full-scale opera. It's just designed to bring people joy. However, the Metropolitan Opera and the Guggenheim Museum and the Santa Fe Opera are producing I suppose it's an operatic event because there's a wonderful operatic singer involved named Anthony Roth Costanzo. And they're going to be producing a digital opera or a digital music event that happens to look at opera singers' times in quarantine, you know? And so things are happening. What I want to say about that is I think that continuing to reach the public through digital platforms is really wonderful, through virtual platforms is really wonderful. However, our art form is really meant to be performed in the theater, whether that ends up being the death of opera or not, remains to be seen.
Let's just go with not.
Right? However, it really is important for the voice to be heard live and for the experience to be had in the theater, because that's really where the magic happens.
So this is the nice thing about the digital world, right? I mean, it costs $200-300 to go to the Met, see an opera here in New York, but you know, a ticket can be $5 worldwide, right? You can have 1 billion people tuning in, you know, each paying $1, right?
That's true. I mean, I suppose we may go to a digital platform where we see, you know, empty opera houses, but people are tuning in digitally virtually worldwide, and we have streams. They did it for a Carmen performance in Germany.
How was it?
I think that people were overjoyed that they chose to go on with an audience-less performance and stream it live for free all over the world. I think it was tremendously successful. You know, the real truth about however this virus is going to evolve and how it's going to hit us again, I think it also remains to be seen, though. I do feel that once people have, it seems as though the thing that I've heard and feel is important to remember is that once people develop an antibody for the virus, it's really impossible for them to get it again. And when a virus develops a second strain, you know, it's like the flu. Do you know what I mean?
You sure about that? Because I typically, for a flu, antibodies last a certain amount of time, and before which you are immune, but after which you are no longer immune, which is why you can, from season to season, catch an ordinary flu, essentially the same strain. It's possible to do. I think that's the big concern.
Maybe I'm mistaken about that.
Pardon me?
I said maybe I'm mistaken about that.
I'm wondering. I'm not. So I think the science is not in yet. That's the problem. We haven't got to the point.
I'm saying. I think that it's too soon to say.
Yeah.
However, I hope that we can return to our regularly scheduled lives as performers sooner than later.
Absolutely, and as part of the group of folks that likes to be entertained by performers, I second that motion. Let's do that. And that, by the way, is a perfect place to end. I think really that's the message, right?
And all of us artists, we're really coming together, and we are doing our best to bridge the gap.
Aaron, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. How can people find more of your stuff, by the way?
So my website is aaronblaketenor.com. My Instagram is tenorblake. My Facebook, I'm Aaron Blake. I also have a professional page and a personal page. Feel free to reach out. My Tulsi Tuesdays, you can check me out every Tuesday. I'll be doing a new song of Francesco Paolo Tosti's, and those will be available on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Instagram on IGTV. And so you can check me out all of those places, and I'll be happy to engage with you. And if you have any questions about singing or performing or me, never hesitate to send me a message.
Thank you so much. Hi, this is Phil of the Phil Rosenberg Show, and I'm here to ask you to do me a small favor. Just take your finger, reach out, click the button that says subscribe. Just take your finger, reach out, and click the button that says subscribe. I need a bunch of subscribers. The more subscribers I have, something good happens. I don't even know what that is. They tell me I gotta have more subscribers. I believe them. So please do that for me. I'd appreciate it. Have a wonderful day, and enjoy the show.